Yes, so I think that what it means is also to go beyond silos. So to go beyond egos, logos, and silos, to try to kind of break down these boundaries that we are building sometimes. We're building walls. And I think the first thing is also to connect.
Hello everyone, this is Shweta Dalwin. Welcome back to another episode of The Climapreneur Show. Another episode that will inspire you, empower you, motivate you, uplift you, educate you, and enrich your souls. Guys, I would like to thank all of you for the kind of love and for the kind of support that you guys have been giving to the podcast. It really means a lot to me and I'm really grateful for that. And also, if you haven't followed us on Instagram, please do follow. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast streaming platform. You'll find all the links in the description below. And you know what? Today's episode is sponsored by House of Climber. House of Climber is a brand by Climapreneur. House of Climber brings to you various forms of sustainability in a handcrafted buffet of local brands that are unique in their own way. If one brand specializes in designing organic cotton, there will be another brand promoting a range of upcycled apparel items or accessories. I absolutely love the kind of love all these amazing brands have put behind their creation. So definitely please do check out houseofclimber.com. And now, let's straight away dive into the amazing conversation with Elise Bhatt. So, welcome to the Climapreneur Show, Elise. I'm quite excited for this podcast because, you have been into the space for more than 20 years. You're the Director of Climate and Sustainability, the advisor to UN, and now, as we discussed, you're entering the local council as well. So, quite excited to be, listening to your journey, and welcome to the Climapreneur Show.
Thank you. Welcome.
So, you have been into the space for 20 years. Was it a very easy journey? How was your journey like? What were the challenges? I'm sure that there would have been a lot of on and off.
Yes, it was not an easy journey. I would say the journey was very bumpy, but very interesting. And I don't regret anything I've done so far. It's been very inspiring, very interesting. And I would really encourage everyone who's listening to us right now to follow their passion and to go on that journey for climate action, because it is so urgent. And we really need to work on that, all of us, as one team for one planet. So yes, we're maybe starting from the very start. I'm originally from France. I grew up in a very small town in the countryside, very close to nature, very much connected to the countryside. But I was also very much aware of inequalities. My parents were traveling a lot, so they took us to Africa when I was 9 years old. We went to Senegal backpacking, and I really became aware of social inequalities, with children in Africa being very poor and not having very much at all apart from food on their plate when they could afford having food on their plate. And I studied in Paris, first international relations and development and humanitarian aid, because I really wanted to help the poorest people on this planet. That was really my goal. And then as I started this journey, I worked as an intern for the United Nations here in Geneva at UNDP. And we were working on natural disasters at the time. And then I also went to Chile, to South America, working on the vulnerability of communities to natural disasters. And I started connecting the dots between development and climate change. And it became very clear to me that there was no way we could achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, without addressing the environmental crisis and the climate crisis in particular.
Right.
I also went to the field in Tajikistan in Central Asia with a humanitarian NGO, and we were working on agrocredit and school feeding actually, and I also became a bit critical in terms of the way the US in particular, it was US aid, the way they were using this argument of development to actually, place their people on the ground, because we were close to Afghanistan. So it's a very geopolitical space to operate. And also what was really striking was that they were sending a lot of GMO crops and fertilizers and chemicals. And it was a big issue for Tajikistan because of soil erosion. There was a food crisis. People could not really grow food to feed themselves. And so when I came back from Tajikistan, I came back to Europe and I thought we should not try to export our own development model. We should first try to fix our own development model before exporting some of our mistakes. And so I started working for the members of the European Parliament on environmental issues, on climate change, on energy, but also on regenerative agriculture, thinking that we first had to focus on sustainable development here in Europe. And it was really, really interesting. I did that for a couple of years. And then I also wanted to learn about the private sector, because I think that there are companies are also very, very important because they are investing so much money into the economy. And so that's a big lever of change. And so I work with some large companies in the oil and gas industry on their sustainability strategies and also carbon auditing. And I felt like it was very interesting to be on the inside of these companies, but I felt we could not change their strategy enough. And after that, I came to Switzerland here to work with IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and WWF, working with the Deputy Director General on climate change. And I had been to Montreal in 2011 for my first climate COP. And I just realized that was just the most pressing issue of our times. So since that, climate change has been the red thread of all of my professional and political career. And I've been working, as I said, then also at the UN, with the private sector, with governments, also advising Ambassador Khan from Fiji when she had the COP23 presidency, and with civil society. And I just feel like we all need to work as one team because it's so urgent, and we need to go beyond our logos, egos, and institutional boundaries to accelerate climate action. So I won't go into details too much now, but there was another turning point in my career, which was in December 2019. I went to Australia because my husband is from Canada and my sister-in-law is also from Canada, but she moved to Australia, and so she's now Australian, and she has 3 kids. And we went to Australia for a family reunion. And we found ourselves in the middle of the fires, the massive bushfires that happened in the Australian summer of 2019, January 2020. And that was a moment when I realized that the UN was not fast enough. And I had been reading this report from the IPCC scientists about the climate emergency, but just to see the amount of destruction and the amount of smoke and grief and all these animals that were dying, and also people who had to escape on the beach to escape the fires. That was really a big shock for me and for my kids as well, and for my family. And when I came back, that's when I decided to start up Climate and Sustainability as a platform of collaboration to facilitate partnerships and to build coalitions between the government, the UN, the private sector, and civil society to accelerate climate action. And as I said before, to work as one team on one planet. Because now I feel we should all have just one goal, which is to safeguard the future of humanity. And so I really believe that by working together through this process of radical collaboration, we can unlock positive change for people and the planet.
You have had such a long, amazing journey. Alice, we always say that you can always connect dots while you're looking back. For example, I can talk about myself. When I started 2 years ago, yes, I was anxious. Yes, I was thinking that, I knew that I need to do something, but I was very anxious about what will be the next step, how I'm going to make it. I had a, sort of a goal in mind that, oh, yes, I need to be the change. I need to tell people that climate action stories can really be the tools to drive climate action. But, the question here is that for people who are just starting out, people like me, who really have a cause in their mind. Like, for example, you told me that, when you started out, really wanted to help the poor people, but they do not know how are they going to do it. The goal seems to be like, what is the next step? So how should they approach the situation? Because today, clearly, we have passion. Young people really, really want to do something. But sometimes they feel anxious about what should be the next step. So what would you say to all those young people, I'm including myself in that lot, to be, on this journey?
Yes, it's very complex because it's a world of uncertainties, and as you say, it can be difficult. And now as well, I can see that for youth leaders there is a lot of eco anxiety because you feel this is really urgent, but you don't know where to start, and you can feel very disempowered by what's happening. I think what is really important to understand is that everyone on this planet can be a climate leader. So you can be a climate hero in your community. It doesn't matter, you don't need to be a minister or head of state. You can start in your community. So the first thing is to learn about climate change, to read about it, and then to talk about it with your family, with your friends, with other students, with your colleagues at work. So start where you are, and also take small steps, baby steps, but real steps in terms of the action you can take. So this is, it can be about being careful about what you buy, about what you eat, your house, if you can insulate your house, if you can save energy, thinking about your own footprint, and then also connecting with others. I think it's very important, otherwise you will feel very lonely. So trying to build a network, even if it's starting with a very local network, and this is great that you're doing this podcast, because that's what you're doing in a way. You're building a community, and this is where you can bring this change, this more systemic change, is when you start to build a community of actors who are interested in climate change, but they may not agree on how we tackle it, and that's okay. They can be a diversity of views. I think a diverse group is actually making the group even richer. So try to build a community of friends, colleagues who care about climate change. Try to organize some events in the evening or podcasts to talk about it. And then more than to talk about it is to try to act, to build collective action. Because there's only that much you can do as an individual. It's much more powerful if you build collective action. So that's what I would say, to build a community of like-minded people and organizations to act collectively. And then also, if you can, get involved in local politics. This is something I've done recently, especially if you are a woman. I think that we're desperately missing gender equity in all the political decision-making spaces. And it's not always easy, especially later if you have kids, but women need to be at the table. I think that a lot of women have climate action in their DNA because they care about the next generation. And I think it's very important also for women to take an active role in this transition. If you can be a candidate in the elections, go for it. I know it's very bold to say that, but if you can't run for elections, at least vote. You do need to vote. It's your right. You are in India, you have a democracy. It's not perfect, of course, but I think it's very important to vote. And remember that overall, if we have 2.5% of the population that cares about climate change, it can bring a lot of changes in the political system, in the economy. You don't need to convince 100% of the Indian people to care about climate change. But if you reach that threshold of 2.5%, there are many studies showing that this is when change is happening. So build a community. Also try to connect with other leaders to get to be inspired by them. And you will be amazed by the results, I think, in 1 or 2 years.
Definitely, and I'm so glad that you said that. Something that I've been trying to, the voice that I've been trying to get through the podcast, that each of us can be a contribution in our own unique ways. And somewhere I feel that climate action has really the power to unite us. and it's a very powerful tool. Like, at least you have been into the space now for like so many years. How has, like, staying so close to climate action shaped you on a personal level? Because you have been interacting with a lot of communities, a lot of, in different areas. So what impact did it have on you as on a personal level?
Yes, a lot of impact, and I must say at some point I found it a bit overwhelming, and there was a point in my life when I was actually working for WWF International at the time on the UNFCCC Climate COP, but also on the G7 and the G20 summits, and I was traveling a lot.
Right.
And I think then when I was pregnant with my first child and then my second child, I had to take a step back. I could not travel as much, and I had to focus a bit more on my own family. That's when I was 30. I'm now 41. And so I think it's also okay to take a break when you need it for a couple of years. And then I came back to it even stronger, because when I had my children, I was like, my God, what is the world that we are leaving behind for them? And this is actually now bringing me a lot, it's giving me a lot of strength. I must say, last year in this election campaign that was very, very demanding, there was a point when we were arguing about gender equality on our list with other colleagues from the Green Party, and they would just not agree to have 50% of women on the list, and I felt like giving up. And my son told me, my son Luca, who's now 11 years old, he said, "No, but Mom, you can't give up. It's so important. Now you started this campaign, you have to continue for the city, for the citizens, and for climate action." And so it gave me a lot of strength, and I'm lucky, I'm glad I didn't give up, because I actually won the elections, and we won, actually, both of us, a man and a woman. So it's actually showing that when you have gender parity, you can win, because men and women are complementary. I think there's a lot of complementarity. So I would say, I think, don't be discouraged. There will be time when you will feel down, you will feel like giving up, but that's okay. Take time for yourself to have a break. Take care of yourself, take care of your own health, your mental health. I think it's very important to keep a good work-life balance, because without your personal energy, you can't bring positive change to the world if you don't have positive energy within yourself, within your heart and your mind and your body. So I think it's very important to keep that work-life balance. And that's it, I guess.
You're so strong, like, kudos. And like, you are a courageous woman, and you carry with you the support, the courage of each and every woman. So, like, kudos to you for standing up, kudos to you for not giving up. So, like, like, I don't have words for that, because I know sometimes it might feel low, but thank you for not giving up, Elise. The world needs you, like, in your own unique way. Elise, did you ever feel, did you ever feel in your journey that, oh my God, like, the moment, like, okay, this was my calling, this is what I was meant to do. Like, did you had a moment when you felt like so enriched from inside for what you're doing? Like, did you had any of those moments when you were just overwhelmed, like, this is what I was meant to do?
So, like, a kind of a wow moment, or what?
Yeah, a wow moment. when you thank all the days of not giving up.
Yes, I think there are quite a few of them. Well, I think that there was a very special day. That's when the Paris Agreement was decided, and I was actually in Paris on that day in December 2015, and that was a very special day, because I was also in Copenhagen in 2009 when the climate COP was a big disaster, a failure, a political failure, and everybody was crying, and we had been working on this for years, and everybody felt like giving up. And so then, having these moments in Paris, it was so special. And I think something that made it special as well, maybe it's because I'm from France, so it's my home country, and I was very proud of being French in a way, but I was also so happy that all these countries from around the world came together in this spirit of shared leadership and collaboration, and this kind of shared humankind. That it was very touching, and I guess it was also quite special because just before, I don't know if you remember, there was a terrorist attack in Paris. A lot of people died. And they even they thought about canceling COP, and I'm glad they did not cancel. And actually I think that helped because a lot of heads of state came to Paris with this spirit of collaboration and support and empathy, and also in a way was to care about the climate and the planet, but also human rights and democracy. And so it was a very, very special day. I think that a bit now, like more recent, the day I was elected here in my hometown was also very special because it was the first time I was running an election campaign. It was very risky in a way. I had put a lot of effort into it. I had worked so hard, every day and every night until very late. There were many things, many political battles on the way, and I was giving myself a 50% chance of success in the second round. I was also ready to give up between the first round and the second round of elections, depending on the scores. And we actually got elected in the first round, both of us, my colleague and myself. We were a tandem, a man and a woman, going together for the Green Party on a platform actually very much focused on climate action. And we had 55% of the votes in the first round. And it was very special because then you realize, okay, all these people, they do trust us, they voted for us. And it was also a great sense of responsibility because now, of course, we have to deliver. We have 5 years to make the best of it. So it's also a lot of pressure. But it was very special because I felt that this spirit of radical collaboration, all of us working for one planet as one team for the common good, I did feel that people were inspired by that. And so it was a very special day. And I was totally exhausted, but very happy. And yes, actually, many women voted for me because I think they feel that we need more women voices in society and in politics in particular. So, and I think it's very important, as you say, that to remember that you're never alone, and especially women, but also youth leaders, we can help each other. And that's very, very important that when you succeed, it will help others to succeed. And the other way around as well. If you help someone else on their way, on their path, and if these other people succeed, it will also help you. And I think we just move ahead by lifting each other, helping each other.
Yes.
And so I would not be focused just on your own journey and your own success, but also building success for others, because it will actually carry you further as a collective effort.
I'm not even kidding. Like, when I'm hearing you say all these things now, like, I guess, like, I hear, like, my thoughts, because, like, something that I've always been telling people, that this is a journey and we really need to walk together. We cannot leave anyone behind, and climate action has so much power that it can really help us to walk together by uplifting each other, by educating each other. And even, when we talk about sustainability, we all say that there was this one guest in the podcast who actually mentioned this thing, that sustainability is a journey, and every time you realize that you are there, there'll be a better alternative or a better solution when you reach at that point. And we as a community can really, handhold each other and move together on this journey. So I really feel that, yes, collaboration is definitely the key. Okay, so Elise, as I mentioned, this is the first time we're doing it on the Climpreneur Show, where young students, youth, young entrepreneurs, they can actually interact with Climpreneurs and they can ask a question. So today we have with us Vedanti. Vedanti, you can ask your question from Elise.
Yeah, hello Elsie. Hello Shweta. So yeah, I wanted to ask is now since that we are on the age of reaching the global temperature rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius, and ditching the traditional fossil fuels has become the need of hour. So the world is heading towards the clean energy transition, but I wanted to know if the renewables can really help us out there, because they depend on natural processes, like the batteries are expensive and the renewables are also space intensive. So like, are they really the solution? Like, we can directly shift towards the renewable energy transition. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your question. And yes, indeed, we are already reaching a tipping point and we're getting close to a plus 1.5 degree of temperature increase. And this is why also it's so important to build resilience and to work on climate adaptation as well, not only mitigation. In terms of your questions on the role of renewable energy sources, yes, of course, there's no energy source that is perfect. And this is why it's so important to first save energy. The best energy is the one that we're not consuming. So insulating buildings, for example, is really, really important. Also the way we are building cities to make sure you have also nature, nature-based solutions and parks in cities to have kind of more natural air conditioning in cities. That's very important. And yes, it's true that you need batteries, you need specific minerals for solar panels, for example. So if you look at the whole cycle of life, it's not totally, resource free, but it's still much better than coal or natural gas or oil. So we still need to phase out fossil fuels as quickly as possible. And the good news is also that the technology is evolving. So the way we are producing solar panels today is much better than what we were doing like 20 years ago. And solar energy is now one of the cheapest sources of energy. And the good thing about renewable energy as well is that you can create a lot of local jobs for people. And so this is still a very good way of, especially now after COVID-19, leaders are trying to find ways of relaunching, finding stimulus packages for the economy that can benefit the climate, but also create jobs for people. And so I think now is really the time to scale up our investment in renewable energy sources, but of course at the same time looking at energy saving, energy efficiency, and using as, saving energy is also good for reducing our bill. At the end of the month, you are actually spending less on energy if you are saving energy. So it's also the way we are building, the way we are shaping our cities. That's also very important. Any other question?
No, that was the only question. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vedanti, for joining. Elise, what we all know that, and as we're talking about collaboration or, what do we say? I think radical collaboration was the word, unity is the word. What does it mean for youth? Like when we say that radical collaboration is the key forward towards climate action, what does it mean to a youth? And how should youth take this entire concept of collaboration?
Yes, so I think that what it means is also to go beyond silos. So to go beyond egos, logos, and silos, to try to kind of break down these boundaries that we are building sometimes. We're building walls.
Yes.
And I think the first thing is also to connect climate change to other topics, because climate change in itself, it's a systemic issue, and the causes are systemic, but the responses are also systemic. And I will just give you a few examples. For example, you need to look at energy, but also transport, agriculture, forests, and all of that, oceans as well. And all of that is connected. The oceans, we sometimes forget about it, but if oceans are becoming more acidic and warmer, they can't absorb as much carbon. And we need the oceans to be alive also for providing food and fish and proteins to communities. Nature, we can't solve the climate crisis without nature. And this, I know it's also very important in India, is to to look at ecosystem restoration as a way to mitigate climate, so to absorb more carbon, for example, planting trees, reforestation, but also to be able to adapt to climate impacts. Also, when you have mangroves in coastal communities, then the communities are more resilient. They can adapt to climate change. The other thing is we were talking about renewable energy, but energy is also linked to buildings and cities. Transport is also super important. You know, if you have a traffic jam and everybody is using a car, you will get more carbon emissions, but also an issue in terms of public health, because people in New Delhi, people are, you know, their health is being affected by air pollution. So this is also why you should really fight for bike lanes, for pedestrian streets, public transport, to move away from this addiction to fossil fuels and cars. So we, in a way, you need to look at the whole society and see that it's all connected. All the sectors are connected. And so to address climate change, you need radical collaboration between people who work on all these topics, on transport, on energy, on agriculture, on ecosystem restoration and oceans. So I think it's very important to stay very open-minded. And the other thing, as I said before, is to work with a diversity of actors. You know, it's sometimes easy to stay with people who agree with you, but it's actually very important to talk to people who don't agree with you.
Yes.
And we call it stretch collaboration. You know, when I was working for this oil and gas company... Sorry? Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, the private sector, you could
who do not agree,
Yeah, I mean, yes, you could say the private sector is responsible for climate impacts, multinational companies. Well, try to speak to these people on how you can help them to change that from the inside. And same for government. You know, you will find people from the government who will say, yes, of course, we need coal power plants because it's cheaper. Try to speak to them to understand their arguments. And so this is what we call radical collaboration, is to work with a diversity of actors and have this dialogue. It's only through dialogue that you can unlock change. Because when people talk, they will also change their perspective on things. And when you change your ideas, you can start changing action as well. And I think that sometimes that is also very interesting, is when you start connecting people who don't have a voice, who are very poor, and connect them with people who have more power. And that's very interesting. This is why it's very, very interesting when you build a community of people, a community of actors that care about climate change. Like, for example, try to connect, let's say, the mayor of your town with someone on the street who is being affected by food shortage and hunger, and try to give these people a voice and to get them to connect with other people who have power already. And this is what's going to bring really systemic change, because the person who is the mayor of the town they may be in their own bubble, you know, they may not hear what people are going through on the street. And the people who are on the street are powerless because nobody is giving them a voice. And so I think if you are connecting the dots, you can be a catalyzer for change. Sometimes just even by connecting people, not even talking yourself about this issue, but having some people without a voice, giving them a voice, and speaking to people in power.
I think that's amazing, and like the change could be revolutionary with that. Also, like, you know, on your journey, like, what has been like your biggest motivation, or what has given you the strength to do the kind of work that you're doing? Obviously, like, it takes a lot of power, it takes a lot of strength, a lot of courage. So what motivates you on a personal level?
Yes, I think that my early experiences, I spoke about it at the start, being in Tajikistan, meeting people there who were very poor. And then also in Chile, I was working with women who were living in slums and had no electricity, no water, very poor. And I think I will always keep these people in my heart. I feel some kind of responsibility towards them. The other thing that gives me courage, as I said before, is my own kids, because they really care about the planet, about their future. And so sometimes it's hard because I work hard and I feel a bit guilty as a mother because I'm like, okay, I'm not giving them enough time or enough attention. But I also feel I'm doing this work for them, for the next generation. And I think in the end, it's also what's giving me courage is this kind of trust in our capacity as human beings to help each other, to love each other, and to care for each other, and to build a better world. And of course, you will always find people who are very cynical, who don't want to change anything, who are very greedy, who want more power, more money. But you will, I think, on the journey, you always meet these beautiful people that share the same values as you. And I would say always focus on the positive. That's also what will give you energy. You know, if you focus on the negative things that people say or that people do, it's not going to help you. But always focus on the positive things that are happening in the world, on the positive people, and that's what will give you energy to continue.
I think that's beautiful, and that is the reason, I always say this thing, that climate action is actually beautiful. The things that you're talking about, I can also, you can feel those things from inside. I think that makes you feel replenished, that makes you feel it adds a lot of meaning and purpose to our lives. Something that we all have been looking for. Do you feel that climate action is beautiful and it is a beautiful feeling to embrace?
Yes, for sure. And I think it's also, in the end, even if we live in different countries, in India or Switzerland or Tajikistan or Chile, we're all human beings and we all share the same dreams and the same fears as well. And we all want a shelter. We all want food security. We want a family and friends we love. We want food on our plate. We want a safe future. We don't want war and natural disasters and drought and flood and pain and pandemics. Nobody wants that. So I think we're all sharing the same dreams, and we need to build on that. And as I said, sometimes we just build walls and boundaries and institutional boundaries that are artificial. We build walls around Europe because we're afraid of immigrants, or we build walls around India, or between different religions, or between different institutions. But in the end, we all share the same thing. We're all kind of brothers and sisters, and it's kind of spiritual what I'm telling you now. But I think this is something we should all remember, and always look at the person in front of you as if this person could be your sister or your brother, even if you don't agree, because I think this is where you can start building peace and a better world. It's really starting at the individual level. It's making peace with your neighbors, with your community, trying to be a good person, even in your very local, direct neighborhood and community. So, yeah, I believe in that. And and be strong, because yes, there will be changes. There are changes happening already, and I think what happened with COVID-19 is just a sign that there will be a lot of shocks that we have not expected. So this is even more important to build solidarity in your community, because that's why you can build resilience. And this is also why it was also my motivation actually to run for election in my hometown, because I realized that cities and communities have a key role to play to build resilience in the face of shocks and these unexpected events. So do cultivate peace, care, kindness in your own community. Will always help you. And in a way, I think when you're helping others, you're helping each other, you're helping yourself as well. So, yeah, it's a positive sum.
It is, and together I feel we can, and together we will, because it gives us another opportunity to unite and walk towards a journey that is beautiful ahead. But Elise, thank you so much for putting it so well. I feel enriched. I'm not kidding. My soul right now feels enriched listening to all those words. it has motivated me like so much, and I'm definitely sure the people who are going to listen to it, it's gonna definitely motivate them, inspire them, empower them, and enable them to be, to create climate solutions, to act in their own unique ways. Thank you, Lise. Like, thank you so much.
Thanks to you, and also remember that the energy transition, the energy transition is happening already. We just need to make it faster. We just need to scale up these solutions. All the solutions are there. What is needed is the political leadership, the finance, and the collective action to scale up, to scale these solutions up. But it's happening already. So this is what is really giving a lot of hope. So yes. So keep up the good work. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a really nice conversation. I enjoyed it. And and stay strong. Keep up the good work. We are together on this journey. So thank you.
Thank you, Elise. We are definitely together. This is the one thing that I actually say in Hindi. I don't know, if you have watched Bollywood movies or not, but I'm a huge fan of Bollywood. And I say this thing in Hindi that hum saath hain to baat hai. It just means when we are together, it's like the most amazing feeling.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.